Hey guys, welcome to the Titanium Vault. I'm your host, RJ Bates, and today I've got my good friend and buddy, Justin Colby. How you doing, man?
What's up, dog? How are things?
Good. Excited to have you. I know we've met a couple of times, but prior to me meeting you, man, you were like one of those guys in real estate that I didn't know a whole lot about. I just looked up to you. So I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm excited to have the Justin Colby on the podcast today.
Dude, I appreciate that. Very, very humbling to hear that from you. You've created a huge space here. And so I'm very happy to have connected with you and Cassie and built this relationship in not that long of a time period, frankly,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
the three of us were kind of even joking this last weekend when we're all together. It's like you meet these people and there's that immediate connection. And so I'm grateful for both of you and to be a part of that, your world, and you a part of mine. And so happy to be here on Titanium.
Absolutely. So for the people that don't know who you are, give a little bit of background on how did you get started in real estate?
Yeah. So 15 years ago, I was broke, busted, and disgusted. I hope none of you listening or watching this are in that position. I lost my home to foreclosure. I was sleeping on my friend's couch, and the repo man took my car.
Jeez.
So it was a tough go for your boy. And I was a realtor at the time. And obviously, back then in 05, 06, 07, the market was booming. And when it stopped, I didn't have a skill set. Like, I was a new home order taker, essentially. People would come in, give me offers, we'd take the highest one. So I didn't have a realtor skill set. So I lost it all. And I had to start fresh. And the only thing I knew to do back in 07, and that'll date me a little bit for all of you, I'm 41 years old. In 07, there was no services. There was no YouTube. There was no Facebook. There was no prop stream. There was nothing. There's no batch leads. There was nothing.
Right.
I called realtors, cold called realtors on realtor.com to get my first deal. I did it for 9 months, all day, every day, sat in Starbucks, drank free coffee all day because they would continue to refill me for free,
Right.
and fired up on caffeine. I got my first deal in 9 months. Second deal very shortly thereafter, because once you hit momentum, you can kind of roll that momentum. And, from there, it's kind of history. The very next year, I went to a seminar, borrowed $25,000 from a friend to pay for coaching. And that is what put me in the stratosphere. From then, it was literally 6 deals, 20 deals, 49 deals, on and on and on and on. And over the last 15 years, I've done 2,200 plus deals and counting, doing roughly 10 to 20 deals a month, all nationally. I'm buying 10 to 20 rentals a year across the nation. And I'm rolling. So that's the kind of the brief story.
Love it. When you say deals back then, were those just wholesales or were you flipping or what were those?
So back then was transactional funding. That was a huge thing, is because most of them were either short sales or potential REOs, if everyone remembers those times.
Right.
So there was no real wholesale. It existed, but the assignment and all that kind of stuff wasn't the same. And so there was companies out there that would give you transactional funding for roughly 2 points for 24 hours. So that's very expensive money if you're doing the math there. Very expensive. So if I borrowed 200 grand, they would charge me 4 grand for 24 hours. So I had to make sure that wholesale, what we now would call like a wholesale, had enough margin to pay those costs and the closing costs. So luckily they did, of course. But transactional funding was huge then. It's not as much of a thing now, but it still exists, and that's
Yeah,
how
I
I did
mean,
it.
you mainly only hear about transactional funding in these states where they're banning the assignment and now you're having to do the double close. North Carolina, Illinois, Oklahoma, places like that. That's where you hear the majority about this transactional funding nowadays. It's funny, I did a hotel seminar as well, and I didn't get taught what an assignment was. I got taught every wholesale deal you do, you have to do a double close and take transactional funding. Well,
Mm,
why? Because they had a transactional lender there at the hotel seminar. They were trying to get a piece of the pie, right?
100%.
And first deal I ever did, the escrow officer was like, "No, sweetheart, you don't have to pay 2% on your money for 24 hours." She's like, "I'll just do this pass through double close. We're good." And I immediately felt like I was an expert at that point. Like I already know something no one else in the classroom knows.
That's right.
So I love it. So all right, you go in the stratosphere. You've done 2,200 deals. So how many of those, like flipping wise, do you
I've
do a
done
lot of
somewhere
flips?
between 600 to 700 rehab flips where I bought it, remodeled it, flipped it, right? So somewhere in the 600 to 700. I still do them today. As we're doing this recording, though, we all know where the market is. It's shifting. It's changing. Interest rates are, way higher. So because of my history, what I'd like to do is take a step back. I didn't make money on all these deals, everybody. I've lost money, right? Not everything is puppy dogs and rainbows. And so if you're listening to someone who's just has never lost a single dollar and their life is amazing and blah, 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 it's because they've done one deal, they made money, and that's what they get to brag about. So just be careful about that. So, in
Real
that,
quick, hold on. I want to talk about that because I think that's partially why I was drawn to you when I met you in person. Because, and I just said this on the last episode with Jacob Blank, who I also met in Milwaukee when I met you the first time.
Yep.
You immediately started asking me questions about some of the struggles that you were going with, very similar to the way Jacob did. And you were talking about like some of the education, like lead gen for, the science of flipping and stuff like that. And it was just, I was sitting there and I was laughing at myself. I'm like, this is Justin Colby. And he is immediately like asking questions. Whereas so many people, you go to an event and it's like, the flip side is no, I am the expert and I do everything perfectly. I'm not going to let you know that I might have a need. And that's what kind of drew me to you. So I appreciate you bringing up that, no, not every deal has made money, because I openly talk about that. I mean, we've had mistakes in our business.
Of course.
We still make mistakes to this day. I don't think we'll ever be perfect. So on that note, how did you overcome deals that you weren't making money? I mean, give some advice to maybe someone that's going through that right now.
Yeah, well, so first of all, there's always some days you earn and then some days you learn, right? And that's true in all of this. And I think you just made a comment, you don't think you'll ever be perfect. And that's because you're pushing the envelope, right?
Yep.
So what I tell people, and I'll even tell my students, I say, as soon as you're getting close to reaching that goal, you kick the goalpost another 10 yards down the field. When you get close to reaching that goal, you hit the pole coast, kick it down the field, right? You never really just want to have perfect and everything runs on automation. Now, you can if you want, but the vast majority of us are too hungry for more, right? Meaning not just more money and more things, but just a bigger life. And so when you do have those shit sandwiches, as I like to say, you need to recalibrate. You need to look at why. The thing about that is it was your fault. Now you can take that one or two ways. You can spin out mentally and call yourself a bad investor and I don't know what I'm doing and I suck and I'm stupid, which will lead to negative quitting the business. Or you can say, okay, I made a mistake. That's human. That's nature. That is something I'm bound to do when I'm pushing the envelope. So what mistake did I make? Did I overpay? Did I over budget on the rehab? Was it something a little outside of my control, which is market conditions? And if so, why didn't I kind of foresee that? Right. And one of the things I'll tell you now is because of the shit sandwiches I've had to eat over 15 years, the last 24 months, I think I have flipped literally 4 properties. And it's because I knew today, the real estate market we are going with today was coming. I just couldn't tell anyone when. And because of what happened back in 2014, when the hedge funds came to town in Phoenix, I've spent the vast majority of my deals are in Phoenix. I was buying heavily from auction, and that was my only vertical. In fact, I was part of a mastermind back then called Collective Genius, which is still around today. And I was having a conversation with the owner of the mastermind, Jason Medlin. I was like, we were on meltdown mode. It was our only way to get deals was the hedge fund. I'm sorry, the auction. And the hedge funds would come in and now start paying quite literally 110 cents on the dollar. 110. They would overpay for the property. And their model was different. But that left us mom and pops that needed to buy at 70% or less, not even sniffing their number. We couldn't even get close to it. So we had to make a massive change because quite literally went 6 months without buying a deal. Well, if you're not buying a deal in 6 months and it takes 3 months to rehab and collect a check, what does that mean for making money?
There is
it just kicked it so far down the field. Now, could I have moved and pivoted beforehand? Could I have figured this out and looked at and analyzed it and dug deeper real time? The answer is yes. So that is why over the last 24 months, I predominantly bought rentals and wholesaled because I knew today's market was coming. I just didn't know how to tell anyone when. No one had a crystal ball. So when you take those losses, and you will, everyone listening, you will. If you do anything serious in this business, you will have losses. It is a reflection of you need to look in the mirror and say, what did I do and how did I do it? And where could I have plugged that hole? That's the idea. And if you can do that and not take it personally, like you suck or you're stupid and all this other stuff that people go through, human nature, right? If you can avoid that, then you're just going to get back up and you're going to keep going, period. Because you want a great life, just like RJ and Cassie and myself, and you want bigger and you want an amazing life and robust life, right? And so if you're one of us like that and you know you deserve it, then I'll tell you this: you can never beat a man or woman if they keep getting back up. You can't beat them.
You know what's funny about that is a brief synopsis of what our speech was this past weekend in San Antonio. Was our speech is called "Burn It Down." And what is it? It is whatever is keeping you from getting the growth that you want right now, whether it's fear of getting on the phones, not having enough time, not having enough money to leave your W-2, or a fear that you're going to let your family down. Whatever it is, just burn it down. Get rid of it. How do you do that? One, take action. Okay. Two, take enough action to eventually where you find a way to execute. So now you're executing. Execute long enough where you become a master. And then the last thing is once you've mastered it, get to the point where you can pivot when the market dictates that you need to pivot. And, you know, you and I were talking about me doing the 50-50-50 back in 2020. That was all done on SMS marketing.
Yeah.
All outbound cold text sent out. Couldn't do it today. But still to this day in San Antonio, I have people walking up to me saying, RJ, I watched your whole 50-day challenge, man, but texting's not working for me now. What do I do? Bro, you missed the boat. We had to pivot like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Why are you still trying to do the same thing? It's like you with the auctions. It's like, dude, at some point in time, the market tells you what you're doing is the wrong thing. You've got to change. You got to find. This is why it's important to have a mentor like you or myself, where it's like, hey, we're pivoting, we're changing. This is what you need to do now. So,
well, you hit it on the head, dude. And you and I both educate, and I would argue we are some of the best in the game. And I'll say this because we have the experience behind us to be able to coach these individuals, and we're not scared to show the dirty laundry, like the losses, because what people want is what we have, but they're unwilling to find, you know, the investment to be able to be a part of our world. And then they go out and lose a lot of money because they're not willing to listen. The key to what we have behind us is the experience to now look around the corner before the corner comes. We have that ability. We're newer individuals. Maybe you've been in the business 1, 2, or 3, 4 years. You don't have any history. You don't have the background. You can't look around the corner. And that's all I did when it came to like this market shift. I literally have some coaching clients that I've been begging for 18 months to stop flipping, begging, slow it down, wholesale it if you have to. Do not keep doing these projects. Stop the new home build you're doing. Do not do it. Sell it off to your competitor. And the handful I'm thinking of right now, like literally I had a call this morning with one because he is on the verge of like BK, like melting all the way down. $9.3 million in the streets on these properties. Many of them are already underwater, even if he finishes them. And like, people just don't want to listen because they get so caught up in the hype and the gas. That, you know, listen, I have friends that made way more money than me in the last 24 months because they were flipping. Yep. So I made my 20 grand, they made 60. Right. And they're like, why do you keep selling me these homes, you idiot? Why don't you flip them? I'm like, brother, God bless you. Keep running. High five. Keep buying them from me.
Yep.
Because I wasn't about that. I've been there. I've been burning the like ship down because I've had those moments where I had a 7-figure loss on a development play, because what I was doing was I was chasing the money and I wasn't being a good business operator, right? There's a difference. When people make some money, And the young guns in this game, I promise all of you, if you've made some money in the last 3 or 4 years and you've only been in business 3 or 4 years, it probably doesn't feel great right now. Because all of a sudden, whatever was working for you, which you don't know because you had no processes, system, structure behind it, you went to YouTube University and you just said, oh, fuck, I can make some money. You're the ones that really need to take a second look at this because you don't have enough history for you to be pivoting in the way that RJ is talking about. The first question all of you are probably thinking, okay, well, how do I pivot? How do I adapt? This is why RJ says what he says. You need someone to be able to tell you that has the history of pivoting, adapting, adjusting, changing the things that they were doing to fit the current condition. It's huge.
Absolutely. And listen, you talk about people making money over the last 3 or 4 years. Okay. Now, I remember in 2018 and 2019 listening to people, guests that I had on the podcast, talk about, hey, if you've been in the game if you're new to the game in the last 3 or 4 years and you've made good money, be careful because the change is coming.
Mm-hmm.
And what you've experienced over the last 3 to 4 years is not normal. Now, fast forward, here we are in 2023 talking about people making money over the last 3 or 4 years. Let's recap what's happened here. 2019, you were on the tail end of one of the greatest rises in real estate of all in history, right?
Yeah.
That immediately got stopped by one of the strangest events in the history, COVID.
Ever.
Just immediately everything stopped and then kind of started again, but we all were working from home and couldn't see each other and 6 feet and mask, and it was weird. And the whole time it's like, are we about to stop? Like, is the economy about to crash? But don't worry, because the United States government said, oh, no. We're just going to make sure this train keeps on pumping, baby.
I have a big check. I have a big check. Bigger than everyone's.
We just keep giving money. And now we have to pay the piper. Like, right. Here we are. And the Fed is saying you're going to feel pain. Like, somewhere along the way, we're going to have to keep raising interest rates to slow down inflation. They're literally saying the words, you're going to feel pain. So, to your point, flipping, man, it's a scary proposition right now. I mean, we went out, we started the TV show. We literally were listing properties for sale in November and December. The worst time to start listing properties for sale. But we were able to move them because we bought correctly. Not everything was a huge win. Some of them were just break-even propositions. And that's the reality of flipping houses. So I just want to touch base on that because if you're new in the past 3 or 4 years, understand you have literally been in this industry in the strangest 3 or 4 years of all time. So,
yeah. Listen, I applaud anyone who becomes an entrepreneur. The challenge in our space, the people that have made a couple dollars, now they want to go be coaches. And that's the big challenge is, I have a lot of love for Jacob Blank. He's from Phoenix. I've helped him kind of go. The reality is he blew up for a lot of different reasons, but he did it in a market that was unreasonable. I mean, everyone was making money. And I don't know where his business is at today. And I'm really hopeful it is doing really well, but there's just a lot of people that haven't even been in the real estate game long enough to experience anything, but they want to coach people. And that's where I get a little, I've done this for 15 years. I've been a coach since 2014.
Right.
But by 2014, I was doing it for 7 years, not 2 or 3 or 4. Right. So that's my reservation, right? Is as educators, you are the real deal. I am the real deal. Pace is the real deal. Jamil's the real deal. Mm-hmm. There's a handful I will be able to tell you guys are real. They do deals. They're in real estate. They are doing it now and they've done it for years. But there's a lot of people that
I told you this past weekend, bro. The biggest issue we have right now is not that there's not good educators. It's that the marketplace is confused about who should I hire.
Right.
And why should I hire Justin Colby? And the reality is when I saw you in Milwaukee and I saw you in San Antonio, I'll tell you, I walked in the room, you were on stage, and I heard you. You said, as an entrepreneur, you're going to eat shit sandwiches. The difference is I've eaten more shit sandwiches than everyone in this room. And I was the guy in the background that was like, woo, baby. Because I'm like, that's real what you're talking about there. And to your point, I think majority of people need to hire mentors that have won, but also lost and recovered from the loss, found a way to keep going. Because the reality is really that's going to be like your mentee that called you this morning that is struggling. He needs you now more than ever. Not to figure out how to pull a list or how to do marketing or anything like that. He needs Justin right now to be like, bro, how can I come out of this as unscathed as possible? Yeah. And how can I still be here in the game in 2025? That's got to be
2035, right? I mean, that's the idea is all of us, everyone listening should be on listening to this because they want to be in real estate forever. They want to build wealth and make a lot of money. Right. And, you know, it's funny you say, like, how do people separate who they should be following? There just needs to be a clear message from each individual. Like, my message is very clear. I want to create dynamic real estate investors. I do not want one-trick ponies. If you just want to wholesale for the rest of your life, I am not your coach. Get out of my world, because I wholesale 10 to 20 deals a month. I do. I love it. I'm not going to say anything negative, only positive. But you need to understand you should also be flipping and you should also be building wealth through real estate. And you need to understand how to creatively get deals done, because the better creativity you bring, the better you are going to be able to wholesale, flipping homes, and buy and hold. I've bought in 4 rentals this year alone, all on creative financing terms. 4 already. And my goal is somewhere between 10 to 20 rentals every single year, right? Guys, that is my mission, is to build dynamic, well-versed, well-rounded real estate investors, not a one-trick pony. So if you want to just be a wholesaler, I am sure there is a coach out there that is going to say, Sean Terry being one of them. Yeah. Wholesale, great, right? That's okay. I'm just not that. I don't want anyone to be that, right? I believe you should be in real estate for your entire life. I will never retire. My wife thinks I'm nuts. I said, yeah, baby, but you like the life, don't you? Right? I mean, that's the reality is. And so I think people need to also understand what they're trying to do, right? Like, I'm doing a thing tonight about the road to wealth in real estate. It is everything. But to get there, you need transactional business. To get to building wealth, you need to wholesale. You need to fix and flip. So make sure you're doing it right, the right way, right? So anyways, go ahead.
So I agree with what you're saying. And I love this, because this is where the messages are different from different coaches. Like at the Crucible, we teach nationwide virtual wholesaling. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, day 2, I have a segment called Exit Strategy First. And it's based off of, we are wholesalers. I am now going to teach you how to underwrite deals on, if it's a flip, if it's a rental, can it be seller finance? Can it be an Airbnb? That determines your acquisition strategy. Now, from that point, you can then transition into flipping houses, owning rentals, doing seller finance, things along those lines. And I agree with you. I tell them, I want you to do that. But if you've come to the Crucible starting off, I want you to master wholesaling. When do you want your students to start flipping or start taking down rentals?
Great question. I believe the same way you do. So I call it, I think you just said it is like exit first. Yeah. So what I say is you need to understand your exit strategy. It's the third pillar in my 5 pillars of real estate investing, right? Is your exit strategy. You need to know when it's a good rental, when it's a good flip, and when it's a good wholesale. And there's wholesales in there, novations, but I'm not trying to confuse everybody, right? Because the better you are in your exit, the better you can acquire the home. So, you know, a lot of people get caught up in sales and I need more leads so I can get more deals. Well, really, are you analyzing the properties correctly? Because a lot of people will pass on not a good deal because they're using a Mayo formula that was literally built for fix and flippers, right? 75% of ARV minus rehab minus a wholesale fee. That's the number that I need to contract it at, right? Well, that formula is so a flipper can profit on the deal. So you're only looking at it as a flipper and or a wholesaler because you're trying to sell it to a flipper.
Yep.
But there's a lot of people out there that want to buy rentals. They don't care about the flip. And if you are getting a no because your offer is too low because it doesn't fit the fix and flip market, is it at a price point in a market that you think it could be a good rental? You downsize a rehab budget because you're not going to need granite countertops and brand new white shaker cabinets. You get it to rent ready and you get it rented. Well, there's a buyer like myself that might pull the trigger on a deal like that, especially if you know how to structure it creatively. But you had to back out of the deal because you didn't analyze the exit first. You only wanted to go in because someone taught you a formula, and that's what you do. If you're a hammer, everything is a nail, right? So if
So
you know this one formula, you're just going to be stuck with that. Doesn't mean you won't make money, but RJ and I are going to be making a lot more money doing a lot more deals relative to that one strategy.
I want everyone to understand this was not pre-planned. I have not taken the science of flipping. Justin and I have not talked about this, but we literally just said the exact same thing about how we're teaching our students. And that's an amazing thing because first and foremost, it proves that what we're teaching is accurate.
Yeah.
Right. And then also it's funny because you and I kind of talked about you're buying rentals in the Sunbelt states, right?
Yep.
And so I always tell our students, because this is like the number one question. We come in, it's like, okay, you're going to be a nationwide virtual wholesaler. Okay. Which Chris Jefferson said that's a made up term and it's not a real thing. And I still adamantly disagree. It's a real thing. I tell them, you don't know what market you're going to want to be in. Pick one in the Sunbelt states or in the Midwest. Why? Because you're going to have fix and flippers there. You're going to have landlords there. And you're also going to have the ability to find people that are motivated that you can get on creative terms.
Yep.
That is a fact because there's so many previous landlords, maybe those tired landlords that want to get rid of their properties. And I'm assuming the 4 rentals that you picked up this year were some of those probably came from old tired landlords. They're like, I own this free and clear. Sure, I'll sell it to you on terms.
One was a duplex in Cleveland, Ohio, quite literally owned free and clear. We pulled a free and clear list. We're calling him. He says, yeah, I'm looking to sell. So when we found out it was a duplex and he owned it free and clear, I wanted the lead because I knew I was going to be able to get him on creative. So I didn't want my acquisition guy to like mess it up for me. So I was like, give me this damn lead because I knew I was going to want it for myself.
Yep.
And so I pitched creative, literally a $68,000 duplex. 5% interest, 30 years, balloons in 5. My payments are $350 a month. Just the upstairs tenant alone pays me $650 a month. Right.
That is the normal type of deal in Ohio. Like that's why I tell people you want to go to Ohio. You want to go to Indiana and Michigan because you're going to get those deals right there.
Yeah, I mean, in 10 years, the duplex is going to be worth $68,000. It doesn't appreciate there, right? But I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing it for bankability. And so, to everyone's point, like I want everyone to start building wealth. The biggest mistake I ever made, it's not the 7 figures I lost on the development. It's not the $250,000 I lost on $1 million flip. It's not those things. The biggest mistake is I didn't buy rentals from day one. And if that is the one thing anyone takes from this episode, make that hit home. And I'll just map this out for you guys. If you buy 1 rental a year, and you put a 15-year loan on it, not a 30, but a 15. In 15 years, you'll own 1 home free and clear, a second basically free and clear, and a third almost free and clear. Now, what that creates is bankability. That creates a whole lot of equity because you still have equity on the other, probably in the other 7, you still have equity. And you can go to a bank and say, hey, I want you to underwrite my portfolio and give me a loan against my equity. Depending upon how much these homes are valued at, you might have $500,000 the bank's willing to give you against the equity of your home or homes. Well, what can you do with $500,000 in Sunbelt states where I'm telling you I'm buying duplexes at $68,000? You can go buy 10 more properties and potentially duplexes.
Yep.
And the value of being bankable is why I'm doing all of this. I spoke on stage in San Antonio, and I don't know if you're in the room or not. I proclaimed I'm going to be a billionaire through real estate. And I said, full stop, because it is very uncomfortable to proclaim that, right? Like I'm nowhere near $1 billion, like I'm not even in the same stratosphere.
Right.
It's uncomfortable to proclaim that. But real estate's the only vertical I know that you can take someone like Grant Cardone, who I love him as a person and have spent a lot of time with him. But if he can do it, I damn sure know I can do it. Right. And so the thing about that is I didn't say in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, or by a certain age. I didn't say by 80, I'm going to be that. I didn't give any criteria of the expectation of result. And that is everyone's biggest issue. I have 5 pillars of success. First, decide what you want and who you want to be. Second, commit to it. Third, take massive action. I'll repeat them. Fourth, be extremely uncomfortable. And 5, and maybe the most important, remove all your time expectation on your result. Because I get a lot of people brand new to this space and they want to get their first wholesale done in 30 days. I love it. Great. Awesome. But if on day 31 you don't have a wholesale deal, you damn sure can't quit. So why don't you just say, I want to get into real estate and I want to do a wholesale deal. Period, full stop. That should be the expectation. If it takes you 9 months, like it took me essentially, so be it. But people quit because they have this time expectation on the result that they're trying to achieve. And it's bullshit. This business is simple. The reason why RJ and Cassie succeed and the reason why Justin Colby succeeds is we have the dog in us. We can put our head down and just keep going. We look up to breathe every so often, put our head back down, right? And that's all it takes. Like the systems and the tools, all that RJ and Cassie can teach, I can teach, but it's the action of keeping going and being persistent. That's what makes us, right? And so when I say I'm going to be a billionaire through real estate, like I said, nowhere near. But if I keep going and accumulating these properties and then it keeps growing, I will reach that mark, right? It might take me 40 years. I don't know. It could also take me 10, depending. So I think it's all about exit strategy. I think you absolutely, I'm a national wholesaler. I'm a national investor is what I call it, because I will buy and hold, I will flip, and I will wholesale nationally. So I'm a national investor. I create national investors because COVID changed the game for me. I used to be in office, operational costs, big team, etc. Now I'm like, oh, I can't go to the office. So I got rid of my office. My team was all virtual. And now I just said, oh, this is the business model. This is it. And I coach to it. Now you have software like Privy and so many other softwares that gives you access to national MLS. Like, it's incredible. So everyone should be doing what you're teaching, dude. Everyone.
Absolutely. When we started wholesaling in other markets, you know how we had to get comps? We had to make a relationship with a realtor there and then ask them to comp for us or give us access to their MLS so we could comp them ourselves. I mean, it was cumbersome as fuck.
Yeah,
I mean, now it's like $98 a month. What are you talking about? This is easy. So it's funny. You bring up you're going to be a billionaire. So this is 2015. We've been wholesaling maybe 6 months. I go to a little local meetup at a coffee shop. Linder walks up to me. She says, "Oh, are you new?" "Yeah, we're fairly new." She said, "How many deals have you done?" And I don't know. At that point in time, maybe we'd done like 10 or 15. So I tell her, and she says, "Well, what are your goals?" Without even thinking, it just rolled off the tongue. "I'm going to own 1% of the United States."
I love it.
Ever since
it gave me shivers. I love it so much. It gave me shivers.
Dude, and you know what's funny? It's stuck. It's been our big, hairy, audacious goal ever since. And it literally feeds into your 5 pillars. There's no time constraint. It's extremely uncomfortable. You know what's even more uncomfortable is to tell people. Because then they're like, "Bro, you're a nothing. Like, you don't even own apartments. Like, you don't even, like, what are you talking about?" It's like, I know. I've got a long way to go. But I'm going to promise you this. Every single day I wake up and we're taking steps towards that. And the compound effect of what we're doing, to your point, buy 1 rental a year. Before long, 15 years later, you have so much leverage that you can start doubling and quadrupling that portfolio instantly.
Yep.
And that's where we've been. Now, unfortunately, along the way, we've had some missteps, just like you have.
Yep.
We had to sell some of our rentals, the equity and the appreciation, just to cover some of the losses.
Of course.
To survive.
Yep.
That's part of the game.
Yep.
That's part of being an entrepreneur. That's why I love the part when you talked about shit sandwiches, man. It's like, hey, if you're not ready for that, then you're really not ready to be an entrepreneur. So
no, and I would even argue, and I don't know all your listener base, but like you don't have to build your business like RJ or Justin. I would make the point that if you want to do this part-time forever because you're more employee minded and you like the security of insurance and those, awesome, do that. Just be committed to doing this part-time. If you do 5 wholesale, let's call it 6 wholesale deals a year. Let's just say you make 10 grand a pop, you put an extra 60 grand in your pocket every year and you can go buy 2 more rentals. Then do that. It's not my business. It's not RJ's business, but that's your business. And you should build your business for your life desire, right? Decide what you want and decide who you want to be. That is pillar number 1. And for some people, what you and I go through looks like pure insanity. I look at people who are employed and I think they're insane, right? And so, but you need to create what you want. Who do you want to be and what's your model? Because you can do it part-time, dude. You can wholesale, make 60 grand, take the 60 grand, dump it into rentals, do it over and over and over again. And you don't ever have to leave your job and you get all the cushion. So I just want to highlight that. You do not have to be all in, burn your boats if you are not that person. Now, if you really want the big life, you got to be that person, period. I'm not going to waver on that. Burn your boats. Let's go. You got to go all in. But if you're okay with a okay life, all good by me.
I'm trying to find one of our damn bracelets. I don't have mine because it actually gave me a rash because I worked for so long. There it is. Hey, Cassie brought it to me. Come on, give me this. This is our saying. This is how aligned we are with Justin Colby, okay? This is my fucking brother over here. I don't know if you know, or not. We have the same haircut and everything.
That's it.
Maybe one of these days I'll get him to actually grow a real beard, though. So here's our saying right here. Create your own reality.
That's it. Yep.
Not be RJ and Cassie or Justin. Not Titanium creates your reality. Not Justin creates your reality. Whatever it is you want, man. And this is what we preach to all of our students. One of the guys in San Antonio, he's from San Diego. He came up to us when he came to the Crucible. Afterwards, I asked him, I said, what do you want your reality to look like? What is that? He said, I want to do 1 deal a month, and then I want to surf the other 29 days.
That's it.
He said, if I can do that, man, I'm living the life I want. Well, sure enough, he's living the life he wants now. He's able to do it. And so on that note, man, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. For those that don't know, what's the best way that they can connect with you, follow your content, and get in touch with you?
Yeah, go to the Justin Colby on Instagram. And I have so many fake accounts that have been made. I'll tell you the one that is me because there's that many. I have roughly 105,000 followers. Okay. That is the right one. Anything less than that is not. And I'll also promise you not to try to sell you crypto bullshit. Like, so it's Instagram's a mess right now. So the Justin Colby, and then the website would be justincolby.tv, justincolby.tv.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast, man. I appreciate you sharing all the wisdom that you have. You're one of the real ones, man. And I really do appreciate everything that you're doing for the community. And also, this is my 3rd episode from coming back from retirement of the podcast. And the first 2 episodes, I totally messed up. I forgot how to sign off. And so I've got to really nail this one. Okay. So just bear with it. It's going to be really good if you've listened this far. Okay. Remember, I only accept 5-star reviews. Okay. That's all I'll accept. It's actually all that Apple Podcasts and Spotify will allow you to give me. So if you want to give me 5 stars, please do. It helps get the message out to more people. If you thought I sucked and you want to give me less, that's okay. You just don't do it under this podcast. You go to Steve Trang's podcast, Real Estate Disruptor. He openly accepts 3-star reviews. Leave it there and say, this is actually for RJ, not for Steve. All right, guys. That's our episode. Appreciate you. See you next week.
Peace.